Yeah, and as you mentioned, subnets, I also talked about that briefly in the video. But as I was talking about it, also like doing my research on it, I didn't like fully understand how I would compare it to. Is it more like an app chain in Cosmos? But then it kind of isn't, because in order to run a subnet validators also have to validate the primary network, right? So then I was thinking, okay, maybe it's more like a parachain on Polkadot, or like a consumer chain that is renting security. But then some people also told me subnets actually don't inherit the full security of the primary network. So maybe you can explain a little bit the shared security aspect and also the validation of subnets.
Yeah. So this is one of the more, I think when I kind of explain where we're at, I think of us almost in the middle between Polkadot and Cosmos in terms of, some of the abstractions there. And the middle there is a very loose term, so I'll go into that. So I think it will first make sense to explain the full process of creating the subnet and what needs to be done. And then I'll talk specifically about, I think, how they kind of compare in some ways. So on Avalanche, when you want to create a subnet, first off, you have to have, some validators running on the primary network. So that typically just means staking on the network. And the current minimum stake amount is 2,000. So to run a subnet, or like to actually have something running, you should stake at least one validator. And then once you have a validator that can participate, you then add or create a subnet. Creating a subnet right now, I think, is one AVAX or something like that. And then you can, once you have that one subnet created, then you can add a chain to it. So subnets can have any number of chains. Most of them just have one. We talk about it just as one because it's easier to kind of understand. And then you can add your validator to that subnet. And so it's different from Polkadot in that it's all opt-in. So if you're a validator participating in a subnet, you don't just like get assigned to it. You have to actively run the virtual machine from that subnet on your node. So if you want to only participate in some things you're, principally aligned with, you can. If you only want to operate things that are running at a certain throughput or something like that, you can do that. Which is important for a lot of people running these subnets. They have very clear ideas of what they want to run, or like they don't want to just run anything. They just want to run the stuff they care about. But the difference with Cosmos, right, is that on Cosmos, when you validate a zone, you just go to that zone and you stake and that's it. Whereas in Avalanche, you actually have to be part of the primary network. And the reason for that goes a lot into the how Avalanche warp messaging works and how that's different than IBC. Right now, by validating, the primary network, you're not providing any additional security at all to the subnet. So it's like its own sovereign, network, just like a zone is on Cosmos. But a lot of people are very interested in that functionality, such that they can they only have like one or two validators. But then if they do something wrong, or like someone posts a proof that they did something wrong, there's some component of their stake in some way could be slashed on the primary network or something like that. But that's not currently how it works. So right now it's really just its own network. Yeah.
Is there plans to implement a shared security feature at some point?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the big thing there is what is coming up with a standard for how to actually communicate like an offense to the primary network. So you could, out of the box right now, implement something using like smart contracts on the C chain and say like, hey, like these subnets are going to produce proofs, and we're going to require all validators to sign all blocks with some sort of BLS key. And, if you produce a block that's invalid by some mechanism, you can post it to the C chain, and then some collateral that every validator posted there will get slashed or something like that. So you could build that out of the box if you really wanted to. But I think a lot of 2023 for Avalanche will include better, making it more seamless to interact between subnets and the primary network for things like this, where, I think for a lot of our engineering resources have gone into just getting subnets off the ground, making sure that they're operating at high performance and allowing them to communicate with each other. And now that is, has come a long way, it'll be about really connecting them with the primary network and making the interactions more seamless. Yeah.
If I look at DeFi Llama, the top applications right now in Avalanche are, well, besides Aave here, which is pretty much a multi-chain, There's Banky, Trader Joe, GMX. There's a lot more, but like those are the biggest ones with like 250 million TVL, 100 million TVL, 80 million TVL. Are these all subnets, or are they built as smart contracts on the seed chain?
So all of those that you mentioned are currently running as smart contracts on the seed chain. So, and the reason why a lot of them are so popular is because still a lot of the liquidity of the network is on the seed chain. So one of the big things that a lot of people have focused on is trying to make it easier to move between the primary network and subnets. Because right now it's very much like you stay on the seed chain or you stay on the subnets. And then there's like some custom bridges people have deployed between the two. So like, for example, the largest subnet application is DFK. They currently process 7 or 8 million gas, or 7 or 8, trillion gas per day, I think is the unit, which is more than BSC and more than Polygon. But their active user count is lower. So it's like, however many thousand that they have. But it really is a perfect example of what subnets are capable of, which is like within a single environment, you have massive throughput relative to any other ecosystem, even within the entire EVM space. And then they have like a kind of bridges deployed that lets you bridge between all sorts of different networks, including Avalanche. So they think about it kind of as like, it's really their community, their chain, their gas token, everything is theirs, right? But you're running on the shared foundation of Avalanche, which provides like all this consensus and networking, similar to how Tendermint, provides a similar functionality for the Cosmos SDK. Yeah. But they're big, like the big launching point and where AWM comes in, right, is how do you then take all the stuff you have on DFK and then move it to other subnets? Like Dexalot recently just launched a subnet that has like a CLOB, right? It'd be great if you could take your assets from DFK and like move it around to different places without using some sort of centralized bridging architecture. So that's really where that comes in, similar to IBC.
Yeah.